the Republican side, the party itself is so homogenous in terms of it being 90% white and also representing a specific cadre of wealth, that there's no room for Republican politicians to really diverge from each other, even if they were inclined to do so. I think, frankly, they are less inclined to do so than they used to be. I think they're more and more, these Tea Party MAGA types. And they are less concerned about, what's happening at the country club, because their country club is full of people like this anyways now. On the Democratic side, you have corporatists and progressives and, at least within the political class, as close as you're going to get to socialists. They run the gamut on the Democratic side, and they are not as constrained, frankly, by their voters, because their voters are diverse. Their voters have a wide set of issues that they care about, and so you can pit those against each other. That's just the reality of the two parties. That's the nature of the two parties. So it really doesn't matter Donald Trump versus Ron DeSantis. The only difference, honestly, is just that Trump is just so untethered from any ideology aside from self-serving, that the one thing that he figured out, and had the Republican Party been successful into undercutting support for Social Security and Medicare, believe me, Donald Trump would be all in favor of cutting it. But they never could, because it's that good of a program. That's just the bottom line. I don't know if Donald Trump hates black people or immigrants. There's some evidence from his past that he is a racist, but put that aside for a moment. If somehow the Republican Party was welcoming to immigrants, Donald Trump would be welcoming to immigrants. It just so happens that the worst impulses of the Republican Party, Donald Trump doesn't have a problem with. It's just that they were unsuccessful in undercutting Social Security and Medicare. And he has no ideological caring about that one way or another.
He just knows it looks bad in the newspapers.
Exactly. Do we have that audio? Okay. Here is Paul Ryan. Now, Paul Ryan was mentioned in that Fox News reporting that has come out about basically depositions in this Dominion lawsuit. And it is, he was, as a board member, telling Rupert Murdoch, like, dude, we're going to get sued here. This is a problem. All this stuff with like the conspiracy theories and this and that. Of course, Paul Ryan doesn't like Donald Trump. Paul Ryan ideologically, despite the fact that he actually benefited significantly from Social Security. Remember, it is also not just for retirees, it's also for orphans. And his father died, and Social Security helped put him through college. But nevertheless, he is an Ayn Rand fanatic and ideologically aligned with a lot of what the Republicans do. And it undercuts Republicanism to have all these conspiracy theories. He is asked by Charlie Sykes on what podcast was it? The Bulwark podcast or something like that, about what his relationship with Fox News. Here's the thing. Paul Ryan has always been a scumbag. He has always believed that if you're poor, you're morally unrighteous in some way. his lies about cutting taxes was going to raise revenue. His pretending to be a wonk, all of that stuff that the mainstream media bought and left unquestioned just because he seemed like a serious person, even though people who knew what they were talking about were saying, like, there's no there. Like, even, and I'm not talking like wild-eyed socialists. I'm talking like, Paul Krugman, Nobel Prize winning economist, saying that Paul Ryan stuff is junk, but the mainstream media just repeated it. Their inability to call out his lies is what opened the door for their inability to call out Trump's lies when he first started there. That was the dynamic that was indicative and cemented there. Listen to this exchange with Paul Ryan, how cowardly this guy is, yet he is seen by all these never Trumpers as like the conscience of the party.
About the changing nature of the Republican Party and the entertainment wing and the influence of the entertainment wing, which also sometimes has been the id for the Republican base. Feel free to disagree with me. I mean, you can see where the party is going sometimes by listening to some of these hosts. And I would say that one of the most active anti-Ukraine, pro-Putin voices in America today is on Fox News.
Who is that?
Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, okay, I'm just setting you up there.
We should talk about Fox News for a moment. We should talk about this because...
Pause it for 1 second. I also wanted to say, Charlie Sykes, I think, if you go to 2015 and before, was exactly one of those voices. I want to make that absolutely clear. He was a right-wing radio host in Wisconsin, I believe it was. And a regional guy. I don't know if he ever filled in for Rush Limbaugh, but possibly, like one of those types. I'm serious. And so just to be clear, he was part of that machine. It just so happens that his audience turned on him when he was against Trump, and he realized, like, oh gosh, I need to go to different pastures. I can no longer pretend, or whatever he was doing. But there's no doubt. And Paul Ryan was his guy. He was in Wisconsin at this time. That was Koch brothers land. Let's be clear. So I just want to make that clear. Understand, what's going on here. Go ahead.
Donald Trump sitting down in Mar-a-Lago is convinced that you are pulling the strings at Fox News. Funny. So tell me a little bit about what responsibility as a member of the board
So I'm
you
on the board. The board, you don't decide content and personnel. You don't decide who goes on the air, who doesn't, what they say. That's not what you do in the board. I mean, it's a big company. It has WITI here, in Milwaukee. It's got TV stations across the country, NFL contracts, Fox Sports, Fox Sports 1, Fox Sports 2, a television station, The Simpsons, lots and lots and lots of stuff. So the board, you don't do that. Do I have disagreements with different personalities on Fox? Of course I do. It's a big tent, a huge conservative movement. You're probably asking me why I'm on the board. I think that's probably where you're going next. I think it's really important.
Pause it for 1 second. I'll tell you what's fascinating about this. Fox News does not own The Simpsons anymore. I know this only because Bob's Burgers was also owned by Fox, 20th Century Fox, and was sold to Disney. He's lying about that. Now, or maybe he just doesn't know. But you notice that he doesn't even say what his responsibilities are to sit on the board. He just tells us what it's not.
Right.
Now, Fox News is a separate corporation. It is possible that they own some of those O&Os, owner-operated Fox stations. I think that's possible. I'm not sure about that. But the crown jewel of that company is Fox News. As Fox News does, so goes that company. They broke up that company. So he's just like snowing or just doesn't know. Just collecting the paycheck. Just using his name.
in society that we have strong cultural private institutions that can stand up toward what I would call sort of a woke conformity. I think it's really important for the sake of pluralism.
Go back. I want you to hear this. This is woke. He's doing this because he wants to fight woke conformity.
I wonder why these guys are going to be like powerless to stop someone like Donald Trump with this as their frame of.
Oh my God. It's just so it's so pathetic. Woke conformity. These are the guys who, remember, these are all the guys who were like praising Donald Trump when he was talking about Barack Obama being born in, being a secret Kenyan Muslim socialist. Go back a little bit.
Television station, The Simpsons, lots and lots and lots of stuff. So the board, you don't do that. Do I have disagreements with different personalities on Fox? Of course I do. It's a big tent. It's a huge conservative movement. You'd probably ask me why I'm on the board. I think that's probably where you're going next. I think it's really important in society that we have strong cultural private institutions that can stand up toward what I would call sort of a woke conformity. I think it's really important for the sake of pluralism that you have alternative voices that are readily accessible and are strong enough to stand up for pluralism, then get sort of pushed down. So if only for that reason alone, I think it's very important to have an institution like that. Do I disagree with Tucker on this stuff? Of course I do. Yeah, absolutely disagree with him. We're different kinds of conservatives. I don't agree with that part.
So you probably didn't get it, but I wrote an open letter to you in Politico magazine about Fox. I brought one for you.
Okay,
I brought you a copy.
When was this? Was this recently?
And
or
it
is
basically
this...
said, look, I mean, at this particular moment, you have Tucker Carlson spreading the great replacement theory about race, some of the rawest racism that we have in American culture. We had disinformation about the pandemic. We had an ongoing revision of January 6th, actually undermining democracy. And I guess the point was, okay, I understand the need to have another point of view, but if you are on the board of directors of a company that is pumping toxic sludge, racism, disinformation, and attacks on democracy, if you don't stand up now, then when?
So what do you really think?
Well, and that's what
Yeah. I'll tell you when. Never. Never. Unbelievable. People forget this, but this guy, go back and look at like the way that he was sort of praised by the mainstream media.
Oh, like Ezra Klein.
By all of them. Yes. Serious wonk guy.
I'm gonna sit down a Q&A with this guy.
Really just, and now like it's important that we have some bulwark against woke conformity. Like, what the frick does that even mean?
That just seems so far. Like we were talking with Luke Savage about how like there's a difference between this and like Reagan Thatcher, which is like the young people had a buy-in with Reagan Thatcher, and part of it is like you listen to Thatcher and they're talking about like economic individualism, and this is like before, like during Keynesianism. So like the idea, like now it's this woke conformity. So like now it's like, oh, they're like back then it was they're stopping you from being rich. Now it's like they're stopping you from being racist.
Right.
I just don't think that's as good of a sell.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. And understand too, like that era, the Reagan Thatcher era was also a direct result on like of a like blowback against like hippies. And understand by 1980, a lot of those hippies had, not all of them, maybe not even the majority of them, but enough of them had become sort of disillusioned and had gotten lost. And so that was sort of the pushback, is that like you were going to go out and save the world, and what happened? And it didn't happen. And so there was room for this. There was nothing like there was no cause that you could rally around that hadn't already been sort of like, that wasn't ripe for cynical attack. So you had people like PJ O'Rourke, who were like heroes for people like my age and a little bit older, because he was like cynical and
It's all bullshit.
and it's all BS. And then if it's all BS, well, what should you do? Greed is good. Enrich yourself because it's all BS. All the peace, love, and tune in, tune out. Drop out. All that stuff didn't work. So what's left? Cynicism and self-enrichment. And that's what the 80s was really about. And then by the time you get into the 90s, it's like a soft self-enrichment where all of a sudden everybody's getting rich because there is you get this boom of technology with the internet by the mid-90s. And there's a sense that the Soviet Union has, the Soviet Union fell apart early 90s. And that's it. There's no more, we're going to get this peace dividend and it's all just going to be about making money and blah, blah, blah. That's basically where it was at. I don't know how we got there, but yes, but the idea, so selling the idea of greed, which was, Ayn Rand's sort of like a religion, right?
Yeah, but anyone can see what's in it for them for greed. This woke conformity attack, most people aren't obsessed with what they can say about trans people.
Old white people are as a cohort.
About what their grandkids are doing.
Exactly. But your average, well, I mean, let's say 20-year-old, 30-year-old is black, white, brown, whatever, gay, straight, bi, trans. They don't care. They don't care. It's just another thing. They're not mystified by I can't all these pronouns. They're not. It's just whatever. They, them, who cares? It's just it just is what it is. And they know this. And the right knows this all across the world, frankly. There's a reason why, we had that interview today about what's happening in Israel. The reason why they want to they basically want to do away with the judiciary, which is really what they're doing, right? If the judiciary doesn't have the ability to make a ruling that can't be easily overturned by the government, there is no judiciary effectively in terms of government structure. Right? I mean, there is on the day-to-day disputes, whose donkey is this, and who is responsible for this car accident, who's going to pay me. But in terms of the structure of society, it's minoritarian rule. It's minoritarian rule, and we have that in this country, and they know it. They've got to get a hold of the structures of our society, make it anti-democratic, because increasingly people are against their ideas. And, I don't know if you can, it remains an open question to me as to whether you can render the anti-wokeness, if you can completely render it ineffective with only material politics. That is an open question for me. But it does seem, and I do also understand the danger associated with this, that you're leaving something on the table to not use their anti-wokeness against them for what it really means. It should not be, and I understand the danger of that, is it allows people who have specifically, non-materialist politics or to the extent that they do, it's material benefit for a very specific class of people.
Yeah. Pro-entrepreneur class.
Exactly. To hide behind that, anti-wokeness politics. But it's a mistake to leave that on the table, because it is very, like, what Paul Ryan's talking about does not resonate with people broadly.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, regardless of, like, there's an argument out there, like, people respond. The reason why Donald Trump got elected is because all the wokeness. No, that's not why. All those people voted for Mitt Romney too. They voted for Mitt Romney. They may be mad at the establishment, but it's not the wokeness they're mad at. And to the extent that the people voted for Donald Trump because they're mad at wokeness, those people are on the way out, folks. That's just the bottom line. As a political force, they're on the way out, and they know it. They know it. MSNBC, they got Biden on liquid IV.